Okay guys, welcome back to my video. In this video I'm going to sort of explain things that I think I've learnt from basically this kind of new routine I have where I don't look at my phone for first hour of the day. I'm quite willing to go to any costs to make this happen, so I got up this morning and I just forced myself to not look at my phone. I just sat down. I was quite bored, obviously, so I let myself have a cup of coffee, journaled a bit, but I'm not going to put down all the revelation to what I'm saying to just this morning routine, but there's a lot of stuff that I've had sort of bubbling about in my head, and I've got to go to work in about an hour or so, but just before I do, I really said I had this revelation about the direction of my life that I wanted to talk about. And but the basis of what I'm going to say is basically you shouldn't try too hard to make the kind of your direction in life be one that's like sexy, or like exciting. And you shouldn't worry too much about whether you're being ambitious or not. I think what's much more important is, are the things you're doing important to you? And oftentimes, things that are important to you will come across as very ambitious. But oftentimes they won't. I've written down a few goals of like what I want to do this year, and one of the things is like places I want to go to. And some of the places I want to go to are really exciting places. I want to travel to Moldova. I want to go to China at some point. I want to see some of Central Asia, Africa. All these really ambitious places that I'm not saying I'm going to do all of them in this year, but like they're all places that I want to go to at some point. But at the same time, I'm fascinated by the Gaelic language. So which is just like, if you don't know, like the sort of traditional language of Ireland, or otherwise called Irish, still spoken in kind of the far western parts of Ireland by a very small minority of people. But I'm really interested in this language and going. And part of me just, wants to go to all these ambitious places like, Eastern Europe, Africa, Central Asia. But another part of me just wants to go to Ireland and just hang about in, these sort of, quite ordinary parts of these sort of rural towns where Irish is still spoken. And that's much less ambitious, but many parts of me would just much rather do that. And I think I've seen the same thing in my work environment at the moment, where I'm sort of working in a sales job. And when I tell people about it, it's quite impressive. I do kind of show off about it to girls and even just friends. I make no bones about the fact that I work in this environment. It's very competitive, it's long hours. It's high risk, high rewards kind of environment. But what I've realised slightly is I just thought, like, why am I actually doing this in the first place? And I sort of look back and I think, well, okay, I wanted to get into entrepreneurship. And Iman Gadji told me to do sales. Andrew Tate told me to do sales. Jack Hopkins. All these guys were on YouTube said, "Oh, do sales," and I kind of took it as like sort of, well, entrepreneurship. That seems like the best idea. Let's start with sales. It seems to make perfect sense, and it made perfect sense at the time. But I'm sitting here now in sales environment and thinking, is this actually getting me towards my goals in entrepreneurship? Beyond like being able to set up a sales company with the skills I'm learning, like what other skills am I actually learning that's going to transfer to entrepreneurship? Because the plan was never to run a sales company. So why am I effectively, by still working at this job, doing that? And I sort of like, having done a bit more research about about entrepreneurship, reading books like The 4-Hour Workweek in sort of a lot of detail, and I slightly think, where I feel like at a point, like I'm not actually learning the skills that I came here to do, but I'm still kind of persisting in this hard working environment because it's like, because it's cool, you know. But really, I could just get a 9 to 5 job, you know, that paid me more, 30k a year, which is much more. That's not a lot of money at all. Like, ideally, I'd want to be making more from that, particularly if I'm working a 9 to 5 job. But it's certainly more than I'm making at the moment from a commission-based salary. And I'd work, all things considered, probably about half the hours, make twice the income, and there'd be so many benefits to that. I'd have good sleep, because I'll be finishing work at like 5:30, whatever. Worst case scenario, I'm still getting home at like 7 or 8. I could literally go to bed at 9 o'clock in the evening, be up at 4:30 in the morning, and just have that amazing morning routine to set up my day. Weekends completely off. There'd be and I'd be making twice the money. Just my productivity would be through the roof. And just by all accounts, this would be great. But I just slightly think, but there's one big disadvantage to that, which is it's not cool. It's not very impressive to work a 9 to 5. But I think what I've realised is like, you've got to accept, like, nothing, it doesn't have to be impressive, But I just think the potential to sort of build like a side hustle within a 9 to 5 would just be enormous. I'm making these YouTube videos just before work now, and I have very little time to make these videos and to do whatever else. I've got the weekends, but I'm knackered during the weekends. Like this whole weekend, I just had no energy. And, I got to Friday this week, end of the week on a high, managed to get a sale, and then it was the end of the week, and I got back home and I just collapsed, Like, I had this really big plan for like what I was going to do, I was going to make this online course, I record these YouTube videos, journal, read. There's like a chapter in the 4-hour work week that I really wanted to dive into and just really like understand. I wasn't completely unproductive. I had a reasonably good weekend, but I just think I was not performing at my highest capabilities because I'm just exhausted, and yeah, I just can't really be more productive on the weekends while I'm working this job. And, a compromise has to be made somewhere along the line. And I've started to realise that, yeah, just being it's all right to be less ambitious in the short term. Provided that it's all right to be not ambitious. What's more important is, are you achieving your goals? That's much more important than what you're doing. Is it exciting? And what I'm doing now, very exciting, very sort of, for a lot of people it isn't very sexy, but if you're an entrepreneur, if you're talking to people who like are into business and stuff, door-to-door sales, they generally see that as quite impressive. I remember talking to this guy who was like just a regular salesman, like he was selling like software or something like that, and I told him he did door-to-door, and he was really sort of impressed. He was like, oh God, wow, that must be really difficult. And I liked that. But I just think, is that what it's all for? Is that why I'm waking up sleep deprived in the morning? Is that why I'm, losing my weekends to just hours of productivity? Not because I'm not disciplined to have a productive weekend, but just because I'm completely knackered throughout the week. I'm so mentally fatigued that I can't really focus on anything apart from, so I just resort to low-level kind of cognitive tasks. Is that what it's for? Just so some guy who's got a high-paying job for me is impressed with the work I do? Is it so that I get a good feeling when I can walk into the office and think I'm an entrepreneur because I work on a commission-based salary? Is that really something to show off about? And, that's not to downplay the positive aspects of what I'm doing, but it's when you strike that against like what I'm losing, what I'm missing out on, the ability to, which is basically the ability to build an online business, and make money remotely so that I can achieve my goals. I just feel like I'm sacrificing so much for so little gain when you put it in perspective. And that's the kind of weird thing, like, that we have to realise. A lot of our goals, they aren't actually very exciting a lot of the time, but they're important to us, So I guess the message I'm sort of trying to impart is just be careful of doing what is just what sounds impressive compared to what is just necessary to accomplish like the goals you want. I'm just looking back on sales and stuff, and I just think, okay, I need to be able to sell a course. Like let's say I set up some online products. I need to be able to sell that to potential clients on an online call, on a sales call. Okay, I do need to be able to do that. I need to argue my case, blah blah blah. But beyond that, I don't need enormous sales skills to really do that. I just need to know how to set up an online products, which is, to be honest, pretty easy. I mean, that's the thing. Like, making money online, I've hyped up as this big thing, but my impression is, like, yes, you got to nurture it, you got to give it time, you got to be disciplined, but especially like information-based products, it's really not difficult. It's just a case of getting it done, which is what these things like the 4-hour work week say. I think the reality why more people aren't doing it is because people aren't very open-minded. But beyond that, there's no use me learning the skills of door-to-door sales as it pertains to being making money online, which is ultimately what I want to be able to do. Now, there are some, peripheral advantages to it. I need to be, if you can speak to someone on the door, it's quite impressive. If you learn to work on commission, that's effectively what you're doing on an online business. That is pretty impressive. That's a good skill to be able to have. If you're doing badly at your work, if you can make sort of get by on not very much income, that's quite impressive. This week I've cut down a bit on sort of like food. I've sort of stockpiled food so that I don't have to worry if my bank balance drops too low. Stuff like that. That's like a good skill to learn. But ultimately, those are sort of periphery things to entrepreneurship, and they're significant. But I think the question is, what's going to stop me from making money online? What skills don't I have that are going to stop me from making money online? And I don't think it's skills that I'm learning from my sales job. Certainly now, I think the things that are stopping me is things like finances. Having securities so that I can focus on making money online. It's things like mental health. Having a sort of calm mind, being well slept, being well energized, not being anxious, so that I can focus properly on making money online. And these things that I'm not getting from a sales job, but I would get from some very sort of more low tier job, that I would frankly get from. Not saying that I should do this, but frankly, if I was working in a cafe somewhere, I'd be making more income for less stressful work, and I'd have lots of money to focus on making money online. Now, it's not a great strategy. There's what if things go wrong? I've got it's a pretty shit job to fall back on. I'm not saying I should just work in a cafe, but it gives me a lot that I would be able to put into making money online that I'm not from from a sales job, So that's kind of where I'm at the moment. Is just kind of swallow the ego and think, yes, it's an impressive job to do. Yes, it's impressive to walk around in the freezing cold, trying to sell subscriptions. But ultimately, does it serve me? Is at my core purpose, is this what I really need to be doing? And the answer is probably not. And I just think, yeah, it's actually quite unsexy, the answer to my questions. You know, I don't need to do anything crazy or extreme in order to get started making, you know, any money at all online, which is basically all I want to do. You know, if I made £50, £30, you know, £1 from anything, from selling a course, from AdSense on YouTube, anything like that, then that would be an enormous box ticked off, and from there it's just scaling it up. You know, that's all that it would take to accomplish my goals. And I don't have to quit my job and move back to my parents and work I don't even have to work super hard to do that. You know, but I do need a job with a bit of income so that I have the security to not worry about finances, and I can just direct all my attention onto just making money online. You know, which I could just do in the weekend. You know, it's not that hard to just make an online course, or to post, or to build a bit of a personal brand, or post videos on YouTube. And if you do that long enough, eventually you're going to make money. So yeah, there's a lot of sort of swallowing the ego on that. But yeah, I mean, just to finish off, guys, like I just look at myself right now. I just think I'm just so mentally fatigued. You know, I woke up early this morning because I wanted to get that early bit of the day where I could just focus on stuff that I want to do rather than just going straight to work. But I was sleep deprived, you know, and there was a moment where I was like, oh, I just want to go back to bed. But I just pushed through because I was like, you know, even though it's not good to be sleep deprived, I'd much rather just be a bit tired in the morning, have a bit of time to myself, than go straight into work. You know, and I just look at myself and like, you know, the house is a bit of a mess. You know, I've got an ink stain on my fucking trousers. You know, like my pockets have holes in them. You know, my shirt's not on. You know, there's so many standards that I've just let slip. And, you know, obviously I should hold myself accountable for that. But the truth is, if you're in like if you're really stressed out and mentally fatigued, you know, it's quite hard to stay on top of that stuff. And I think the answer really, if you're in that situation, is to reduce the source of stress in your life rather than try and sort of sort out initial sort of problems. Now, obviously, you can solve part of the stress by solving the problems. You know, it's kind of a good cycle. But I don't know. I can't stand by the fact that I think at the moment the thing that's holding me back is just I'm not making enough money from my job, and the skills I'm learning from my job aren't leading me anywhere. And yeah, the reason I'm working here is because of ego, because I think it's cool, because I think it's kind of the sort of thing that the person I look up to would do. You know, I'm working hard, and there's a lot of ego in working hard. You know, if you work hard, you don't have to think about anything. You know, that's the advantage. And I see lots of people who are super hard working, but ultimately it's just a distraction from their inadequacies. And yeah. So anyway, guys, that's my kind of thoughts on ego and sort of your purpose. And, you know, I'll make more videos as I sort of talk about my approach to my job and stuff in the future. And we'll see how it all goes, you know, but thanks so much for watching.